Hey, welcome Sharon Hedrick, multi-sport athlete from the University of Illinois and so many generations of wheelchair sport. It's really good to see you after all these years.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be with you. It certainly is my pleasure to be here and to say hi to you. I think that somewhere we must have crossed along the line, but maybe you were coming in as I was going out.
Yeah, I think that might have been the case. Plus, I think that you were so involved in so many different sports, and I was pretty myopic with track. But that being said, Sharon, I did a little reading about you, and it's you've had a very storied career. Early on, I was writing an article about the Boston Marathon. I noticed that you're actually the first person to have been recognized, the first woman to have been recognized back in, I believe, '77 as winning the Boston Marathon.
Yes, that's true. It was painful, but I got a lot of encouragement to do it. I had read an article about Bob Hall in Sports and Spokes, and I thought, well, I was still pretty new at things at that point, and asked him if he thought I could do it, and he said yes. So I trained the best I could at that time in the equipment of that time, which would be unrecognizable today practically. But it was quite the experience, and I'm real glad that I did it.
Hey, Sharon, of all the things that you're most recognized for, I would have to say it was the exhibition events that were integrated into the Olympics starting back in 1984. They did a men's 1500 and a women's 800. So
Correct.
as you think back to when you first started to hear about these events back in, it was probably '83 when the grumblings first started. Did you instantaneously know that you wanted to be a part of that event?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The 800 had been probably one of my best races ever up to that point in time, nationally and internationally. I do not think that from 1976, which is when they first had it in the Paralympics, and Nationals in 75 as an exhibition in the US, in 76 in the Paralympics for the first time. And from those two starting off points for me, I'd never lost an 800. And so when they said 800 in the Olympic Games, I pretty much had told my coach, Marty Morris, who everybody knows.
The legend.
Such a great coach, yeah. I told him that I absolutely wanted to be in it, and that given my record and that I was holding national and world records in it at that point, that I didn't want anybody else to win it. And I wanted also to show everybody that was watching it, either at home or in the stadium, I wanted them to see how high caliber wheelchair sport was. And I knew I was one of those people. So for that reason, to advance wheelchair sports into a more common mindset, I guess, to do it in front of able-bodied people. And
Sharon, and talking of doing this in front of able-bodied people, I'd like to take you back to, almost 40 years ago as you entered that Coliseum. So we were pretty accustomed to racing in front of hundreds of people. and not necessarily tens of thousands of people. There were probably, I'm going to, recollect that there were probably more than 40,000 people in the stands at the famed Los Angeles Coliseum, the same place where Ben Johnson and Carl Lewis were running on the track just days before.
Mm-hmm.
What was take us to that place. What did it feel like as you were rolling up through the tunnel, getting ready to go for this 800, these 2 laps of fury?
Well, gosh, it certainly was very exciting. There were some serious nerves going on in that. And on the other hand, I knew that every other person was feeling the same, or perhaps even worse than I was feeling. Um, and it's interesting you mentioned the tunnel, because the tunnel was, the practice track and the tunnel were more nervous places for me than when I actually got on the track in front of all those people. Go figure.
So now, Sharon, you're out on the track, and there's you've got the crowd roaring around you, and it's easy enough to say all I have to do is win these 2 laps. But at that point in time, going back in history, we were not allowed to use steering devices on the track, and which was a huge caveat when it comes to the safety of rounding the corners of the track. Was there additional tension knowing that the pending or possibility of a crash may have been there?
Well, all of us that had been selected for those 2 races, I think, had really prioritized that more than anything. We wanted it to be a good show. So we did not want any kind of a crash to happen, as much as we all individually wanted to win. But we all had in the back of our minds that that would be the worst possible thing probably that could happen. Although runners fall all the time on the track, we didn't want to go out for the first time in front of such a large crowd and have a 6-chair pile up. And have that be...
of course not. Would probably have been mortifying to the crowd, and thankfully that didn't happen. But you took that race on your own from start to finish. So you must not, even knowing how good you were as a racer, you probably did that a bit strategically just to make sure that there was no chance you would get mixed up in that mess.
Yes, that definitely was one thing that Marty and I have talked about, strategies for if I did get stuck in a pack. But we certainly had every intention of me going out and taking it from start to finish. So most of what we worked on was, what was I going to do with 1 or 2 or 3 people, however, behind me? How was I going to shake them, rather than how was I going to break out of a pack?
So you win this race, and you come back 4 more years later. You go to Seoul and you win another gold medal in the exhibition event again. Did you do it in the same exact fashion?
It was planned out certainly in the same exact fashion. In '84, I had Monica Saker-Wetterström from Sweden tuck in behind me for the first lap and a half. And had even been told by some people watching, they were asking, oh, did she bump you? Looked like she bumped you. No, I didn't feel anything if she bumped me. I don't believe she ever did. But she was in there tight. So that was '84. In '88, Marty's and my strategy was the same, to get out. And we might have even worked more at that point on the cornering and getting out in that first 100 than we did in 84. Because I'm one of those, I don't know if it's odd or what, that I had the white, get my fibers mixed up. Let's just say the quick fiber and the slower fiber. I've got a nice mix of those. So I was also very good at the 100 and the 200. We knew that. So the idea was to leave them at the break line, which is about 100 meters, to hopefully be far enough in front that no one would be able to tuck in. That's what we wanted in 84. It didn't happen that way, but in 88 it did. And so I was doing the race alone, kind of like Sarah Scaroni did the 5,000 this year, which is very impressive.
You know, Sharon, I'd like to fast forward now that you mentioned Tokyo and talk a little bit about what you did see there. So I noticed that the times that you were running in the 800 when you were winning were more or less 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And the world record now set by Manuel Achar from Switzerland is a staggering 1:42.81.
Yeah.
Could you have ever imagined these times?
Not then, no. Didn't, you would be silly to say that you didn't think it was going to get better. I knew it would get better. I knew someone would break my record and that someone else after that would do it again. But to see the times where they are now, I think is really amazing to me.
I couldn't agree more. I think back to the days of Blanchette and, you know, getting close to 3 minutes and Franz Nietlischbach from Switzerland eclipsing, you know, 3 minutes in the 1,500 meters. And, you know, these times to us are just unfathomable. But Sharon, you know, I noticed also that you are a medalist in basketball. Also, you have a gold medal from the 88 games with the women's team. And once again, in 92 Barcelona, you got a silver. Those medals, any more or less meaningful to you than the ones you scored from the Olympics?
Oh boy, I hate it when people, it's a very hard question to answer in terms of how meaningful they are. I think the track medals from those two races probably overall are more meaningful because certainly they validated what I thought I would be able to do, but once again, it was a showcase for the sport, and we were on the world stage and we wanted to do a really great job there. So in terms of overall meaning, I think the two Olympic medals probably are more meaningful. Just in my little heart of hearts.
Do you have one of those close by that we can take a look at?
Well, as it would happen, yeah, I've got both. I don't know where I'm holding these at, but my medal from, let's see, this is Los Angeles, 1984, my Olympic gold, and then back again to Seoul in 1988. These are the two 800-meter gold medals, and I treasure them.
I can only imagine what it must have been like to roll up on the podium, you know, just full of pride, knowing that you had accomplished your task to get those two medals.
It was it just pulled at your heartstrings, and you cried. Well, I cried. for probably the same reasons any other U.S. athlete cries, that yes, it's been years and years of hard work, but I'm also here as an American, and there is nothing like watching that American flag go up the pole.
You know, I just want to tell you as we wrap this up that Sharon Hedrick, you are truly an icon and a legend in the disabled sports world. I mean, you set the bar very high. You let us know what it was all about, and you did a really great job in all of the sporting events that you participated in. You're the only U.S. woman to ever win a gold in both the Olympics and the Paralympic Games. So very, very impressive. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. It's nice to be here with you today, and that's a great compliment. I appreciate it.